All right, so as I said, you are here for part one of the Canva workshop series. And today we're going to be talking about basics and branding using Canva. So what we're going to go over today, just to give you a good idea of the outline of this class, we're going to go over what Canva is and how it's a digital marketing resource for you personally, for your business, however you want to use it. We're going to go over the Canva workspace and what that looks like when you log into your account and different features that it has. And then I'm going to show you how you can build your own brand kit with fonts, a logo, and color swatches, kind of like you can see on the right of the screen. We made up a business. It's called Brouhaha. It is a coffee and tea shop. And you can see we've made a logo. There's fonts chosen and color swatches as well. And so we're going to show you how that you can do that as well. And just as to clarify what we aren't really going to go over today, we are not going to talk specifically about what marketing is or anything specific to that. We do have other classes that talk about building your brand and marketing a business. And we have other resources for that, which we'll go over at the end. But you can always look at our online calendar to see what classes we have coming up. We have a wealth of business and small business resources and classes all the time that you have access to both online and in person at the libraries that will dive a bit deeper into those areas, especially with local experts. So just some vocabulary I wanted to throw out there so we're all kind of on the same page. If you're not quite sure what we mean by marketing, branding, or logos, marketing is, of course, the activity of talking about your business, your product, anything of that nature that you want a customer, a client, or someone to know about. Brand can be a number of different things that identifies your good or service from some other seller. You can also have personal brand. That is, so not just business, but yourself. And then a logo is, of course, a graphic design that's used to symbolize your organization, your company, your brand. We're going to be using those words a lot, so I just want to make sure we're kind of all on the same page there. So first up, what is Canva? So Canva is an online graphic design platform where you can create a multitude of visual content, social media graphics, presentations, print materials, videos, all sorts. And it has been around for about 10 years. So it's been around for a little while. And they constantly add features that make this a powerhouse of a marketing tool, especially for people who aren't particularly design savvy, because there are so many features in here that you have access to that you can just use that other people have made, or you just don't have time to create content from scratch. Maybe you want to use Adobe Photoshop all the time, but maybe you don't have time for it. Canva is a great place to get similar outcomes without all of the time. And how do you access Canva? So Canva is just online. Canva.com is their website. There's also a desktop app and a mobile app. So you can easily create the content on your phone, on a tablet, on a laptop, however you want to do it. There's different outlets for you. Using Canva does require an email address to set up an account. So that could be personal email address, could be a business, whichever you want to use. They do have different plans. So they do have free accounts. There are limited features. So each account type has different features that you have access to. A free account has a lot of the basic stuff that you can use and play around with. And that's a really good one to start if you're not quite sure if you want to use Canva for whatever you're going to use it for. And it's a great place to sort of just test things out, poke around, see what you like, see how it feels. It's a great place to start. And then they have professional plans for individuals, for teams. So if you're wanting more, like if you have more people that you work with that you want to have access to, you might want to use a team. They also have accounts for people who are in education or nonprofits. And those two have a bit more work that goes into them because you can get free professional content but you have to submit information about being a teacher or a nonprofit. So there's a bit more information that goes into those. But you can look at the different plans and see what features are in each one to determine which one you like. But again, you can always start with the free one just to play around and see what you like. The Canva account we will be using today is for teams, so it does have professional paid features. And I can show you how you can see which ones are paid features and which ones are not. Canva is pretty good about letting you know, like, oh, hey, that's a professional feature that you might have to pay for at the end. Because just like with any other creative content out there, if you didn't make it yourself or have rights to it, like having a paid account, there's copyright issues involved. So that's why they would make you pay for certain things. So there's all sorts of information about accounts in Canva that I'll show you in a little bit. And of course, once you have your account set up, you can look around, play with it, and go from there, which we will do in just a second. So again, Canva is just online, canva.com, and we're going to show you what that looks like. Oh, Deb. There we go. All right. So this is what Canva looks like once you log in. So we're going to explore what the workspace looks like. So it is browser-based. I'm just using Firefox. I opened it, canva.com, logged in. And again, you can access it with your desktop or a mobile app. If you're using the apps, they may look a little bit different in terms of the layout and what's readily available than what's in the browser. So they may just look a little bit different, but also Canva tends to add content to their pages. So what you might see now in this class, and this is recorded, so if you want to watch it later, it might look a little bit different whenever you get around to getting your own account. That's just the nature of what it is. But a lot of the features remain the same, they just might be in a different spot. So let's look at what is on our screen right now. So this is as soon as you log in, this is what you'll see. There's a lot of stuff going on. I can tell you that. Right up at the top, though, we'll start with this main toolbar. So, of course, you've got the main Canva logo, which sort of acts like a home button. So if you're ever in some other area, you can always click on Canva right here at the top and get back to the main page. There are different drop-down menus up here that you can explore. They have different starting places if you're looking to begin, but you're not quite sure where to begin, and different products that they have access to. You can just, of course, click and look around. They even talk about how to make a logo. So that even Canva has a lot of educational features within it if you're wanting to learn more. And a lot of this is just available even with free accounts, this information right here. In their business area, they just have a lot of different information about using Canva for business, like creating your content, building your brand management. There's just all sorts of different information that you have access to. The education area is extremely helpful if you are looking to expand your knowledge on the different features of Canva and what you can do within Canva here. There are different resources, especially for educators. And then earlier I was talking about the different plans and pricing. So there's a tab just for that. And you can compare the different prices. And so when you click on the free plan, it goes through what is available, the different features, what you have access to. And so it looks very cool. And you can see right here some of the different prices for the different accounts. And so for 1 year, a Canva Pro account is $120. And then for teams, which is up to 5 people on one account, $150 a year. So there are different prices. So again, you can always start with free. And if you decide you want more features, you can go up from there. And they talk about why you might want to do that anyway. And in the Learn area is a bit more educational resources. They have a blog and they have design courses. And they even have events that you can, sort of like webinars that you can attend. But I will say, Canva does come out of Australia, if I recall. So their times for these events might be a little off for us here in the United States, and even especially Texas because of our time zone. So, but the information is all there. And of course, they have a help center as well. And then I'm going to click on Canva to go back. All right, so up here on the right side, we of course have, this is the Plano Library logo. So if I click on it, there's a bit more information. The main one I want to talk about is the account settings, which you can also get with this little cog here. If you just hover your mouse over these icons, it tells you what they are. But account settings is where you're going to want to make sure you've got all of your information, like because we have a team account, we have team details, our billing information, what permissions we have, apps we have access to. So if you're using an account like this, you want to make sure that all of this information is up to date, everything that you want. So always know that you can access your account here and figure out your billing and your plans information right there. All right. So again, we clicked on that main Canva icon to get back to the home screen. And so the next thing I want to talk about is this whole middle area. So there's a lot going on here, and there's even more as I scroll down. So the main thing is right here at the top, you've got a few different ways that you can start creating content. And we'll get around to creating content in a little bit. But of course, you have this big purple button up at the top that says create a design. And when you click on it, it asks, what do you want to create? And it gives you lots of options. That's the main thing about Canva, is that it's here to provide templates and stock content for you to make creating content easier. You're like, oh, I need to churn out some social media posts. Oh, I need to make a bunch of cards and newsletters. They have templates for you. They have inspiration for you. They have everything that you could possibly need to get started. It's a pretty cool tool. And if any of these sizes, which you can see as you hover over them, different sizes that it's talking about, sometimes it's in pixels, sometimes it's in inches, depending on what it's being used for, especially online versus print. You can also create your own custom size. So if you've got something that maybe it's a blog image that doesn't quite fit any of these, you can always click custom size and put in the information. So you have lots of options there. And you can also do the same in this big blue box. So it has some of their features here, and some of these you may not see if you have a free account. A lot of them you will, though. And of course, there's even more when you click on the word more. So there's a lot to choose from. And so I'm going to click on Canva again. I want to take you back to that. There you go. So one thing they've had up for the past few months now is their latest features that they've added this year. They just did this a couple months ago. They've added a whole bunch of new features. Like they've had video before, but then they've added some new features to that, which we will go into in our video class in a couple weeks. So they have all that here, so you can explore what's new, what's the latest. And then, of course, you have all of your recent designs. So this is a library account. So you see a lot of library content that we have here, but also the brouhaha business that we have created to show you in depth. So this is everything we've used this account for. There's a lot. And luckily, there's a way to view it easier, which is nice. So on the left-hand toolbar, there's a number of buttons. And the first one I want to look at is projects. So when you create the content on that main page, you see everything all at once. Well, to make it a bit easier, you can also put things into folders, which I highly suggest you do, as it just manages your visual space a little bit more. It is just really helpful for you, and if you have a team of people, you can easily see everything all in one place that you actually need, as opposed to everything that everyone is working on. So I highly suggest folders and naming things appropriately and just sort of figuring that out before you really dig deep into this. So that's projects, which we'll be working in throughout this whole series. And then, of course, we want to look at templates. So like I was saying earlier, one major feature that Canva has is templates. So they have a template for pretty much everything. Depending on if you're working on a presentation, social media content, video, anything you want to print, they have templates for you. You need a new business card, they have templates for you. There's a lot. Lots of holiday stuff they have for every single holiday. You'll find something on there. Again, presentations. Today we'll kind of go over logos, but they have many templates for you to look at. Instagram posts, flyers, like these are just, it's inspirational, but it's also a place to start. You can click on them, you can edit them for your own needs, because you're like, oh, I really like how they did that background, but I need the text to change and the color to change. You can do that. Easy. So their templates are fantastic place to start. And they even have them categorized in different areas. So if today we're going to talk about marketing and branding, one area in particular we're going to talk about in marketing will be the logo. So we talked about that being sort of a visualization of your brand, of your business. And so they have almost 60,000 templates for logos for you to play with. And there's a lot of similar features, lots of circles that you'll see and different fonts, different colors. And again, these are places to start. It's good inspiration. And you can just pick one and edit it because you're like, oh, I like how that circle looks. I like the text they used. You can just go in and edit them. These templates are a fantastic place to start. And next week, when we go over social media, we'll look at some of these social media templates to get started. So the templates are a fantastic tool in Canva's arsenal because they didn't have these before. When Canva first started out, they didn't necessarily have like the wealth that they do now. So it's really handy for people just starting out. And so one of the main things that we're going to go over today is branding. So you want to be strategic when you're thinking of your personal or professional brand. You want to have it sort of figured out ahead of time. Because if you're starting a business or even if you're just revamping, you want to figure out what that is. So what's your mission statement? What's your vision, your values, your audience? What sort of brand personality do you have? These are all things you should explore before making any kind of logo or content like that, because they want to reflect the purpose of your business. And again, we have other branding classes that you can take through the library and other resources that you can explore that we'll talk about later, so you can feel more confident about what your brand is and how you can explore that further. And you can always go to our website to look at our calendar to see what's coming up. So off the top of your head, you can probably name a few brands and what their brand kit might feature. So of course, McDonald's, they have the golden arches of their sign, and most of their branding in their stores on their packaging is red, white, and yellow. You would see that everywhere. For every McDonald's, it's going to be the same. Same with IKEA. Very simple text logo, lots of blue and yellow, which also goes along with the Swedish flag. The city of Plano, of course, red, white, and blue with the Plano P in its center. And just because we're Plano Public Library. Plano Public Library, of course, has a brand as well. We have our 5-colored star over here that you can see in the corner, and the 5 colors represent our 5 libraries. So all businesses should have a brand, and it should reflect who they are. And so if you don't already have a logo, of course, you can use these templates that Canva has available. And I'm going to show you what we did with our brouhaha business. So I'm back on the main page, back home, so where all of our content is. And what I want to look for is over here in tools is brand. And so I mentioned earlier how you're going to know the difference between a free resource and a paid resource. A paid resource is going to have this crown next to it. So free accounts won't have access to the brand toolkit. But of course, you can still add your logo and have your colors. It's just you'll have them in a different way than what this toolkit allows. So that's what you want to look for if you're trying to avoid anything that you would have to pay for. And they also have filters when you're actually creating content to only show you free materials. But for now, we're going to look at brand. And right now, because this is Plano Public Library's account, I'm just going to show you what that looks like real quick. So I have a bunch of different logos that we use for different things in our library, but you can see the common theme here is our 5-colored star. So we have it in other places, like this logo is for our podcast. We, of course, have the library logo itself, and we have that in a few different variations depending on what we're using it for. We also have our brand colors. So we have the 5 colors of the library, and then we have some secondary colors that complement these colors. And then we have specific fonts that we use. Fonts and colors both, I would say, are an area that you could spend a lot of time on figuring out what you like and what fits with your brand. I would say just be as simple as possible if you can get away with that. And of course, have other people look at it and get their viewpoint. It's always good to ask around, see what people think, especially with fonts, because you want legibility. You want people to be able to read it. And that's also where color comes into play, because if you have this red color in text on top of this orange color, you're not going to be able to see it very well. So you have to think about things like that. So this is what the Plano Library's brand kit looks like. We have just different icons that we use for different things. So now with our fake coffee and tea shop, we made a logo for brouhaha, and I will show you that that is not the only one we tried out. We went through like 8 different logos to sort of figure out what we liked, what fonts, what maybe italicized, bold. We went through a bunch of different ones and had different people look at them and decide what we liked until we finally came up with the final version. You might go through a few different versions if you don't already have a logo. If you do, super easy. You can just click the plus button, find it in your files, and upload it. And then you're done. One of the things about having a logo that you're using on all of your branding is having it be transparent. So you can kind of tell in the background of this graphic that it's a gray and white checkered background. And that is a general feature in different design applications. That means a transparent background. That means when you put it on top of a business card, it won't have a weird white square behind it. It'll be see-through. So that's, I would say, an important feature. And you can do that through Canva if you don't already have it that way from somewhere else. We also chose colors based on the coffee ring around it. So of course the browns came from that. And then I went to a website, colorhexa.com, colorhexa.com, where I put in this main brown color, and it gave me other complementary colors I could choose from. And I really liked how these 3 looked. And so I chose them to go with it. And you can see that in some of the templates that we'll go through over the next few weeks about how we're using these colors in a complementary way with the browns. And then, as we mentioned earlier, font being sort of an important feature of your brand, especially legibility. So we have a few different types that go along with it. You can see this heading called Essays 1743 is the main one of our logo there. And then we have this established 2022 text below that's in this subheading. And then for any time that we just want to use plain text, we've chosen a very plain text to go along with it. So this is a brand kit. That's what Canva calls it. And what this means is that when I create a design, I have access to this logo, these colors, and these fonts at all times, making it super easy to keep everything on brand, which is really nice.
Hey, Rachel.
Yeah.
We have a question in the chat. We were hoping you could repeat how to get the transparent background and images again.
Sure. So in Canva itself, I'll show you in a minute when I go through using a template to make a logo, how to have a transparent background. If you have an image from somewhere else that might not have a transparent background, Canva actually has a background remover tool that you might be able to fiddle with to see if you can get rid of that background. Otherwise, one great tool that the library has is we have Adobe Creative Cloud at all of our libraries, and we have staff that could help you if you needed to bring your file in to make it a transparent background. So there are many ways that you can get it done if you don't already have it that way. But I'll show you here in Canva how to make sure your file does have a transparent background. Caitlin, I know you do a lot of our other technology classes and digital creation space. Are there any other things you might suggest?
No, not off the top of my head, but again, feel free to book a librarian session if you're wanting to learn how to do that specifically in Photoshop, or reserve time in the digital creation space at any of our 2 locations to make that happen.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to show you how to do it here in Canva. So what I want to do is I'm basically going to just recreate this logo just to show you how to go from a template to a final product. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click back on templates. So we're going to go back to this huge template library that we have. And it was under marketing and logo. Now I don't remember which one I used originally to that inspired me to make the final product, but pretty much any of them that is a circle that I can work with, but we'll be replacing it anyway. But I just want to show you from using a template what sort of options you have. We'll just go with this one. It's pretty simple. So when you click on it, it's going to bring it up and then asks if you want to customize it. So that's what I want to do. So when you do that, it brings up the editor. So this is the editor feature in Canva. So I'm going to go over some of the toolbars on here. So up at the top, you of course have your home button. So whenever you're done, you can always go back to home. You have file, which I mean, it's a similar drop-down feature you'd have in any other application, Word, Photoshop, etc. You usually have a file drop-down, and this has a number of features. One I really like is show rulers and guides. So that pops up a ruler along the edge, and it's really handy when you're trying to get things to line up properly. And There's also ways to save it to a folder specifically, making a copy, anything of that is all in here. I will say under save, Canva will save throughout the process. You can see that by this little cloud here with a check mark. That says that everything you have done so far has been saved. That's what that check mark and that cloud means. But you can always go to File, Save if you just want to make sure. Never hurts to make sure that your file is saved. And resize is a really cool tool. And again, it has that crown next to it. But what that means is that you're like, okay, I like what I've done here, but I actually need it to fit in a Facebook post or a video. You can check how you want to resize it, and it will resize the image for you and open up a new file specifically for that size. So it's just a really cool feature available, especially for social media, I would say, because all social media platforms have different sizes that they prefer. And so being able to take one design and resize it for a number of things is a time saver for sure. So of course you also have undo and redo buttons. We haven't done anything to this design yet, but if I moved this, now I can undo that I've moved it and it goes back to where it was. I'm like, no, I actually liked where it was. I can redo that. So those are always handy. Don't worry, you can undo work that you've done. Over here on the right-hand side, you have, this is the file name that you can just click in and change however you want to name it. That works for me. And then under share, we'll go into this a little bit more when we're done. That's where you can download your file or share it in other ways. But this is where the transparency comes in handy. So under download, if you have it selected as a PNG, which is a major file type of graphics, especially for online content, there's other file types that you can choose, but we're going to stick with PNG. You can select transparent background. This is a paid feature to have that transparent background. But that will be really good to have if you're wanting to paste your logo on everything. But again, you can come to the library and we can work on using a different application to removing a background of a graphic if you already have that from somewhere else. But that's where you would want to make sure that that is checked before you download it. But we're not going to download it yet because we haven't really fiddled around with it. But that is where those download features are. So in your middle area here, this is really the editor. This is where your canvas is. This white box is your canvas. And there are a few different buttons. If you wanted to make sure that this feature did not move, you can lock it in place. And it shows this little lock right here. That means you cannot move it. It will not move. And right now, I want to make sure that I can move it because we're going to be playing around with it. So you can unlock it, you can lock it. That works really well when you're working with a team of people, because if you're wanting certain features to stay where they're at all the time, you can lock them down. Another really cool tool to have is like, okay, I like what I've done here. I like what this looks like, but let me test out something. You can duplicate the page entirely and make a brand new one where everything is what you had it on the first one. But then if you wanted to change some stuff up just to see the difference, you can do that while keeping the original. So that duplication tool is really handy. And then if you're like, you know what, I don't actually need it, you can delete the page, which is really nice. You can also add a blank page by clicking on Add Page. And again, you can delete it. So this is your main editor. You can also change the view size. So if you wanted to get a little bit closer, you can change that here down at the bottom. You can see how many pages you have as well. So right now we only have one, so that's the only page we're going to be looking at. You know, just a little bit. When you click on any of these features, different tools will show up in the editor. And so I'm on a text box right now. So the main tools that are going to show up here are text tools. So there are different fonts to choose from, and Canva has a lot of fonts to choose from. A lot. And you can also upload fonts. If you've access to fonts that you specifically want to use, you can upload fonts as well. You can, of course, change the size. This is very similar features that you would find in any other design application, or even things like Word or PowerPoint, where you can change the font, the size, even the color. So you can tell by the little A up top, tells you usually if it's font related, and then the color bar. And there are different colors. And I want to make sure that I have the correct brand kit chosen. So there's a little drop down here where I was able to choose which brand kit I'm using, so I can make sure that I'm using those colors that I've chosen for our coffee and tea shop. So those are there, and I can always change the color. And you can see it directly on the screen that I've changed that color. We're going to leave it black for right now, just because we're not really editing that yet. Some fonts will have different features already in the font itself, like maybe it looks a bit bolder or it looks a bit thinner. Others, you'll be able to do that with the bold, italicize, and underline features here. You, of course, also have an alignment option. So if you want it left aligned, centered, right, there's different alignments that you can do. They also have ways that you can do lists, bulleted lists, and there are different effects that you can have, like if you wanted a background, a shadow. Again, really cool features that it's worth just clicking around and seeing what they do. And then if you're wanting this to animate in some way, usually for video, but sometimes for social media, you might want to have slight animations that go along with it. You have that option as well. And then over here on the left-hand side, there are a number of buttons, and it will mostly depend on what all you're working on. One in particular that I want to make sure. Yes, so we're in our Brouhaha brand kit. So that's the only logo that's going to show up here. I won't see all my other Plano Library logos here. So that is there, but up at the top, there's templates. And so we chose a template, but say, you know what, that's not really working for me. You can choose some other template that was on that list. A lot of options. And I mentioned earlier about being able to filter by free stuff, and it looks like not in this area. So I'll go over that in a minute. One of the major things that we'll be working in is elements. And so this is where a lot of the stock images, graphics, illustrations, video, audio, that's where all of that is. So this is everything that Canva has available for you. You see a lot of different options here. But for example, when I made the logo for the coffee shop, I looked up coffee ring, and it's showing everything: graphics, photos, videos, even audio that has the word coffee in it. I just want to look at a graphic. So these are a lot of different coffee rings to choose from. Some will be animated, but we really want a static one. And this looks like the one I went with. Looks about right. And so when you click on it and it adds it to your canvas, you have a few options to choose from. So one in particular that I did is this rotation. And it shows you what degrees you're rotating, like 90 degrees. And so you can move that around. So I'm like, you know what? I really like how that ring looks, but I am going to make it a little bit bigger so it fits in the space. You can just drag the sides out. And if you're like, I want to make sure it's centered, when you move it, Canva adds these lines that tell you it's centered. It's centered up and down and side to side. And now I'm going to push that all the way to the back. So that's what this position button is for. You could move something forward into the back. That way it layers properly. But that also lets me easily select some of these logo features that are here previously. You can also find other options of what to do when you clicked on something. There's a more button with other options that a lot of them are similar to what's on the toolbar up top, but you have more here. So I don't actually want this flower. And I don't need this circle because I just put that coffee ring there. So now I'm going to play with this text a bit. So I don't want this font in particular. And again, there's many to choose from. But because I put that brand kit together already, I actually have my fonts available right up here. That's when I was saying that having a branding kit already done is really handy. Because look, they're already here. I don't have to think about, oh, what was the name of that font? I already have it. It's done. Let's see. Just like that. So it has an effect on it. I can tell first off because it is curved, which isn't normally how when you've typed out something how it would look. But also the word effect here has a gray box around it, which tells me that something is edited on it. So it has a curve, and I don't really want a curve. I just want it to be a flat text. So I'm going to type in brouhaha, and I'm going to select it. So first off, it is really small. You definitely want this legible. You want people to be able to see, and that is way too big. You want people to be able to see your name on whatever you have. We'll go with that. That looks pretty good. One thing I can also tell with how they had this originally is that the letters are spaced out pretty far. And that is a feature that you can actually change. So they have letter spacing and line spacing. They have that maxed out, and I don't want that. I want the letters a bit closer together like you would normally see in written words. And now that they're not spaced out, I can make this a bit bigger. Go with that. That looks pretty good. And then I can easily change the color. So I like that brown that we use. And then I had that one as established in 2020 or 2022. Oof, 2020. No. You can tell, again, it has an effect on it by the fact that it is curved, but also that box is grayed out. So I'm going to select on none. And now it's a regular, no longer curved. It also has this major letter spacing that I'm going to tighten up a little bit. And then I'm going to change the font because I like this one. And then one of the other features it has, actually, no, this font is all in capitalization. So never mind. I do want to change the size a little bit because I want people to be able to read it. Again, legibility is key. And then I'm just going to make it that same brown. I'm fine with that. And then again, you can tell it is in the center of this canvas because that line, if I move it over, the line's not there. If I put it in the center, that big bold line shows up, which is really handy. Let's see, one of the other things I had in the logo was a line. Under the elements section, they actually have one that says lines and shapes. And when you click see all, you can see all the stuff they already have in place. And I just want a simple line, very simple. But I want to make it go the width of this text box, which you can see when it hits that width because those little dotted lines show up because that means it is snapping to the edge of that box, which is really handy. You don't have to eyeball it. Canva does the work for you. Another thing that Canva does is that if you want it to be spaced equally, if I move it, usually it'll tell you the distance between two text boxes. And of course, it's not doing it right now, but usually it will. But now you see that that line is black and we want it to match the whole brand. So I'm going to make it brown just like everything else. You can also change the width of it because I think it looks a little weird how thick it is, but you can change that. I like a nice fine line. You can also make it dotted or dashed if you want. There's options there. And that is a pretty good replica of what we did. Now I want to make sure that all of these three features are centered in the middle. So I'm going to select them all and then make sure they sit nice and pretty in the middle. And that's it. I just clicked and dragged them until those lines showed up. Again, those lines, those guides are really useful when you're trying to get things centered and looking really pretty. So that is a basic logo for this coffee and tea shop. It really fits with the theme of coffee and tea. If you've ever spilled, even just in your saucer or on the tabletop, left a ring behind, that I think anyone who saw that would know it's a coffee and tea place. Easy. So now that we've made the logo here, as I showed you earlier, we want to download it. So under that share button, under download, I have it as a PNG, and you can of course make the size of it, and that really reflects the really the quality of the logo. It doesn't have to be a massive size, which you can see, excuse me, the size of it changing as I changed where it is on this line. That mostly just helps if you need to resize it onto something bigger. It won't get all pixelated and weird. We don't want that. So I'm gonna go ahead and just make it big for right now, just to download it. And I of course want a transparent background. And then I just hit download. So now it's going to download. Then it saved it to a download folder on my computer. But I want to put it in, I have a Canva folder just for this. And I'm going to save it there. So I have the file saved to my computer. And now I can use it wherever I want, which in our case would mean if I wanted to, I'm going to go back home. So I'm going to click the home button. And I can go to my brand, again, on that left-hand toolbar. And I'm going to select Brouhaha. I can then hit that plus sign, go to the folder I saved it in, find the file, which right now it looks black on its background just because it doesn't quite know what to do with that transparent. That's just a computer thing that it does. And then I'm going to hit open. And so now I've got two, and they look pretty similar. There's a few little differences. The original one is a little tighter together. This one's a bit more spaced apart. But you can see they're pretty similar. But that's all I had to do to get that brand logo uploaded. Was either hit the plus sign or they even have an upload button over here on the right. And then once I uploaded that, Canva actually has a feature that says, do you want to choose brand colors from the logo that you just uploaded? So it actually asks if you have that suggestion based on the image that you have up. Since I already have colors chosen, I'm just going to remove that. But that is how you would build a logo and upload it to your brand. And then, of course, this is the brand kit itself. Do we have any other questions, Caitlin?
We have someone who is curious about how to print in different sizes from Canva. Have you done printing?
I have. And one of our classes is going to be about print materials like business cards, flyers, things of that nature. But I can show you real quick. Let me try and find a file that makes sense. Most of the files I work with are digital files, but we do have one. So this file in particular is, you can see the size of it. 11 by 17, which is a piece of paper size tabloid is what it's called. Slightly bigger than your standard letter size paper. So when you want to print something, you can print your design. That is actually a service though. That's when you want to send it out to be printed, as opposed to printing it on a printer like at the library or something. That is something your business or you personally would be paying for to go get printed somewhere, which is something you would probably want to do for business cards or professional brochures, things of that nature. But otherwise, if you're just printing on a printer at home, you would download the file, likely as a PDF for printing, and it actually says best for printing. And then you can choose what page that you would want to print. Like, I'm just going to go page 1, just make it simple. And then it asks for color profile. So for printing, they have an option for that. And then you would download it. So you're going to download the file from Canva and print it like any other file off of your computer. Unless you're wanting to go through the service that they offer, which is different. That's like sending it off to FedEx or Office Depot or Staples to get it professionally printed. So it downloaded and opened up the file. This is our summer Engage brochure. And then you would, of course, use your print settings to print it in your copier or printer, whatever you have at home. So that's pretty standard. You would just download it as the PDF though, for printing. I hope that answers that question. Were there any other questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Were there any other questions, Caitlin?
Can you go over the agenda or the topics for the next 3 classes in the series?
Yes. So let me go ahead and go back to our slideshow here. I'm going to talk about some of the resources first, and then I can talk about the next 3 classes. So the library, of course, is a great portal for learning, expanding your learning and expanding your skills. If you're looking for marketing and business content to continue your learning, there is LinkedIn Learning, which has tens of thousands of online courses for you to take, and it's free with your library card. And I say tens of thousands, I mean it. And it's if you're looking for presentation skills or soft skills like communication or about marketing and business, this is a great resource for you. And we've taught some online classes about LinkedIn Learning that are on our YouTube channel. You can also book a librarian, which is a one-on-one session with a librarian at Plano Public Library, and they can help you log into LinkedIn Learning and learn how to use it. So it is a great resource. We also have Press Reader, which is online digital magazines and newspapers. But if you're looking for more content about marketing and business and just trying to stay on top of what's out there, it's another great resource. One that I don't have on here for marketing and business, and I don't know why I don't, but Caitlin and I were talking about it beforehand, is we have classes available in the library and online, especially with our Dallas Score mentors. So they are small business mentors that can help you develop a small business idea, help you with your plan, your marketing, your funding. And they also do a monthly, it's called TWOS, which Caitlin, remind me what TWOS stands for.
Team Up for Entrepreneurial Success. It is
Yes.
a workshop and networking program rolled into one.
And they bring in professionals to talk about specific topics. Maybe it's about legal options for your business or funding or even marketing, and they'll talk about it. And then you can meet up with other entrepreneurs and ask questions and anything like that. And these are free programs and services from the library. that you have direct access to, which is fantastic. And then if you're wanting to know more about Canva specifically, Canva, of course, as I showed you, has their own education section, their own design school with online content. They also have videos on YouTube, and you can search YouTube for Canva tips and tricks, Canva video, Canva anything, and find more information. And then we have a new resource, Udemy, Udemy, and the link for that is at the bottom of this slide, but it's just on our research and learn page on the library's website. And you can see in the screenshot on the slide, they actually have a 16-hour Canva master course on just everything you want to know about Canva. I actually use it to help prep for this class. So it's a really handy tool that you can use to explore Canva, but they also have over 10,000 other classes that you have access to, which includes marketing and business topics, as well as, I think you mentioned a few days ago, Caitlin, jewelry making and other sort of creative tools that Udemy has had classes for.
Yes, that is correct. They have pattern making for fashion and jewelry making and the basics of using a sewing machine, and classes on the entrepreneurial mindset. It's a very great resource.
Yeah, and we just started that like in the last month or two, I think. We just got access to that. So it is a handy tool. And then, of course, we've mentioned we have some classes that we've taught before on building your brand. We have some on social media, on video. You can always go to the library's YouTube channel to see what of our virtual classes we have recordings of that you can watch whenever you want. They're up and ready for you to view. And then you asked about our other classes. So let me pull up our website. I know next week's is on social media, but I just want to make sure that everyone knows. So our website, planolibrary.org, you can go to our calendar. And if you have registered for this class, you are registered for all 4 of the Canva classes. So you don't have to re-register for any of the other ones. You will already get the reminder emails for the next 3 classes. So we had the one today, Basics in Branding. That's in November. And for the next 3 Tuesdays at the same time, we have social media and content planning. So we'll go over those different social media templates that are available and how to plan your content using Canva. Then we'll talk about videos in a separate one. Just videos has a whole bunch of different features that you have access to. And then we'll talk about print marketing on the 20th of December. So that's where we'll talk more about business cards, flyers, and things like that. And again, all of these will be recorded and available on our YouTube channel after the fact. Usually by the end of that week, you'll already see it up on our YouTube channel. So those are the 4 classes in this series. All right, are there any other questions before we head out? Because it is now 4 o'clock.
Just a lot of thank yous.
Oh, perfect. Of course, make sure you head to our calendar to look for any of our other business classes. You can, under the event categories, you can go to business and career and make sure that you don't have a word in the search bar because it will get confused. But under business and career, we have a lot of things coming up. Again, we have the business mentoring that we've talked about, growing your business if you're worried about cash flow, how to build your startup, what roadmap you need. And just we have a lot of different tools the library offers that we teach classes on. And we will have even more coming up in the spring. Our January through April calendar will be up in the next few weeks. So be on the lookout for that, and there'll be plenty for you to register for.